Okay, can I go?
You're right. You're good to
Okay.
go.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Carrie Aguilar. I am the founder and principal of a service company called Innovate Growth Partners. My background is in scaling high growth tech companies. So in the past, I spent the last 5 years as head of sales training and enablement at DoorDash. And then before that, I was head of sales training for an ed tech company called Varsity Tutors. And then before that, I was a bomb ass sales manager and salesperson at Yelp. So I know all things scale, sales strategy, and the transition from founder-led sales to the next steps. And James, why don't you go?
Sure. Good morning. It's a pleasure to see you again, Carrie, and glad to be here with everyone. How you doing, Derrick? Um, my name is James Chapman. I'm the founder and CEO of an event tech startup called Plain Sight, where we help event sponsors, event hosts, and event attendees gain the most value that they can out of events. And I've been in the event space for as long as I can remember, probably most of my professional career, whether that's doing meetups in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where I'm from, where it kind of kicked everything off, to me actually moving to Detroit around 2016, working with Dan Gilbert and his crew to launch and host Detroit Demo Day, where we would give founders based in Detroit or willing to relocate to Detroit their chance to secure up to $1 million in funding every year, which was great. And then me transitioning over to Plain Sight, which I now run full time. So excited to be here, excited to talk about just growth and being able to help other folks who might be listening in whatever capacity I can.
Hey everybody, my name is Derrick Maultsby Jr. I am a tech and venture attorney based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but as Manny will tell you, I kind of don't sit anywhere too long. That's why we get along. Most of what I do on a day-to-day basis is guiding all kinds of companies, mostly in the tech sector, from the idea stage all the way to more institutional, think of our Fortune 500s, on their day-to-day business operations, whether that be sales and marketing strategies, whether that be personnel and employment decisions, or whether that be more so the actual product itself and how the product's going to interact with whoever that consumer or target customer might be. And so one of the best parts of my job is getting to watch companies scale, getting to watch companies grow, and being able to go along on the ride with them. I've been doing this long enough now that I have clients that I got to see come to me and with an idea, and we started a company, and now they're have raised millions of dollars and are actually in the market and doing things. So really excited for the conversation today and to give my perspective on what I've seen work and what I've seen not work.
Okay, I think I'm actually going to run this from here on out. So we're going to do it live. Okay, so I have a list of questions. But Derrick, I wanted to ask you this question just because I was thinking about it this morning. Do you like that I was thinking about you before this? We've never met. I'm super awkward. Okay, so my first question for you, Derrick, is can you tell me what are maybe 2 or 3 commonalities between all of the startups that you've seen be successful? So you had just said that you've seen from iteration or from beginning inception through to scale. Could you kind of talk about what you have seen be successful in them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first thing is folks that are highly skilled at self-assessment. And so when I say self-assessment, I think everyone in their lives should constantly be assessing their goals, assessing themselves, assessing the things that they prioritize, right? All of those things. And it's no different with a company. And so when you have founders that are very skilled at self-assessment, that are very skilled at understanding, hey, this might be where we thought the company's going to go, but we've been doing this for 3 months. and it seems as if it would be better to pivot here and go a different direction. I think that leads to a higher level of success. It also leads to prioritizing different things at different moments, and understanding that you have to be agile, which is my second. I think agility, right? Agility, the ability to pivot, the ability to be able to think and move on sort of a drop of a notice or something along those lines. And then the last is grit, which I know everybody on this call knows something about. James especially, coming from Chattanooga. I lived in the South for a long time, and
I love Chattanooga too. We all have that in common.
One thing I know about folks from the South is they get it out the mud, right? And so that grit, when I look at a successful founder, especially at the idea stage, the idea itself is less important to me than who the founder is, right? Is this a founder that's going to be able to grind this out and is going to be able to take the no's and is going to be able to reinvent their company over time and pivot and do all those things? So all that stuff I said, self-assessment, agile, all that stuff, that comes from gritty founders that are strong, founders that have conviction. And so I think that to me is actually probably the biggest key indicator of is this company going to be successful? Are those founders a team that's going to be able to take it the distance?
Cool. Okay, James, I have a question for you. Actually, I have two questions for you. First is going to be somewhat obvious. You talked about your relationship with Dan Gilbert. Can you tell me something that you've learned from working with someone like Dan Gilbert and how you've applied that to your business?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind that Dan would always say is he put a strong emphasis on speed of the game, which means that, like, man, the clock starts, and he gives the analogy of how obviously Dan is an NBA owner, NBA team owner, and he would give the analogy of the difference between the high school level to the collegiate level to the professional level is really just the speed of the game and the speed in which the players are making decisions and the speed in which the players are getting into their routines is drastically different. And I would say the same is true in business for sure. And he would always make that correlation. And another thing that comes to mind too is something that Derrick said was just betting on jockeys and not horses. Like he would always talk about how the idea doesn't matter to him as much as the person behind it, because things are going to happen. But if you can just get the right person who's running the company in that seat, then they'll eventually figure out what the things that they need to figure out. But speed of the game is always something that stuck with me, because anytime I feel like I'm wrestling with a decision for too long, or I'm feeling like I need to really just move on from something that I've been spending way too much time working on, speed of the game always just continues to come to mind for me, for sure.
I love that. Okay, so the second question actually speaks to something that Derrick brought up, and that's pivoting.
Yep.
So I know from our previous conversation, you had to pivot pretty dramatically during COVID. So can you kind of walk me through what that looked like and how you were able to be successful?
Yeah, totally. So for those who may not know, we started Plainsight actually back in October of 2019, and we released just our mobile app product first for attendees to be able to make connections in those shared spaces. And 4 months later, global pandemic happened, and a few months prior to that, we had just raised $1 million in funding from the ideation stage just to get Plainsight off the ground, right? So imagine having to go back to your investors and tell them, like, look, we legally can't even do events, so that like that's not even the thing that you can make happen. And so I would go back to speed of the game then too. Is like, you got to make a decision quick. Like yeah, be sad that you can't do what you wanted to do with your business for a bit, just like sit in that for a moment, because that's a real emotion. And founders put so much effort into what they're doing. But then also start thinking about how can you iterate, and you got to start doing it fast, and you got to try to do some research on that to make the best informed decision that you possibly can. So what that looked like for us is going back to the people who were using our platform the most which were those spaces, those event creators, those community builders and things of that nature, and asking them, okay, what are you going to be doing now? Right. So that we can figure out how to still march alongside you through this journey. Right. Because if we just start to make, decisions based on what I want to do during the pivot, things of that nature based on information that I'm seeing out there, that's not going to be the right call to make. We really have to go back to our core audience, our core customers, our core users to say, okay, how can we best serve you in this time now? And the other thing that I'll add is learn when to pivot back. So like we started to see that the pandemic was going to end and we wanted to get back to our core business, which was in-person events. And so we started to actually study the Miami area specifically because they were the first ones to really start back doing tech events and start looking at the trends of how frequently they were doing those events, how fast people were moving down and going down to Miami to do those events and things of that nature. And so that's how we decided which regions we were going to focus on as we started to get back into events. It was, who's going to be coming back doing events first, and that was Texas, Georgia, and Florida for us for a number of reasons we won't get into right now. But yeah, just do your research. You have to listen to the market. You have to try to study the trends as much as you possibly can whenever you're getting ready to make that pivot.
Cool. I love that.
So, Carrie, real quick, we've said a lot so far, and I'm very curious. Some of the themes, there's some reoccurring themes already coming through here, but I would love to know what themes we've already talked about and what themes we haven't talked about working at more of a high growth company like a DoorDash. Did you experience, did you see help that company become successful?
I love that question. First of all, I'm so sorry. I have my office is like in walls of glass. So during, it doesn't matter.
Cool.
You
Subtle.
I'm trying to
flex.
chill.
Subtle flex. We got too many windows.
That's right.
Okay. So I think what's funny is that it's kind of the same. So you had mentioned the ability to pivot. You had mentioned, really like reassessing. So I think especially at a place like DoorDash, one of the things that was very important to us in growing was we had to create a framework for whatever process we were doing. So whether it was the right framework or not, we didn't even care. It was like we needed to create, we had to have table stakes for like growing a team. What was, if we were hiring salespeople, what is the background of those salespeople? What should that be? What should it be comprised of? What are our values that we really like hold true? And what do we really care about? And then we kind of created processes around that. And then what we did is we stuck to it for a bit. So we would give ourselves a quarter. We would look at things in 3-month increments. Now I'm not, I would say some people on the call, if you guys have a smaller business and you need to pivot more frequently than 3 months, by all means, please do. But when you are, a Series C company and you've got potentially outside investors, you've got to be able to, move quickly, but also move at the pace that it makes sense for the market. So we really kind of reassessed after every 3 months, and then we would iterate from there. So I would say that the ability to pivot was 100% something that we really held dear. I would also say that we have and I say we because I was there for so long, we have a value that says be an owner. And what that sounds like is, whatever your job is, whatever your project that you're working on, you need to fully own what that looks like and what it is. There's no like passing the buck to someone else. And so I think like as a founder that, you have to be able to do that as well. Be able to fully understand and own a process, also be like the first to fail and say, okay, well, we got to iterate or we got to pivot. We have to reassess. And then I would also say, and this is kind of like tangential to that, create time and space for innovation. I think that it's very easy. So one of the things we did at DoorDash was, at that quarterly piece or every 6 months, we would sit down and we would create, spend 2 days meeting as a team And whether that was during the pandemic where we were meeting on Zoom, but we actually just created space to iterate, to think outside the box, to figure out like, how can we push ourselves in a different way, and not assume that what we're doing is like the best way to do it. Did that answer your question?
That definitely answered the question. Thank you.
Cool. I have a question for you, Derrick. You giggled a little bit about saying you're in Pittsburgh right now, but you move around a lot. Can you tell me what sort of energy, like what you get from moving around and what that looks like for you, and potentially how you kind of add that to the relationships you have with your clients?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, I work with founders of all backgrounds, all different geography. I even work with international clients. So, I think that there's something, and I'm sure James and I probably think similarly to this. I think there's something about having in-person touch points. There's something about people being able to look at me and see that I care about them, and see that I care about their company and what they're building, and also see that I'm not necessarily a prototypical lawyer, right? Like what I'm wearing right now is pretty much what I wear on a day-to-day basis. If I'm wearing a suit, I'm going to court. Like you should ask me if I'm okay. It's my court date. And so, I love just being in person with people, but more than anything, the way that I've navigated it is I do put an emphasis on trying my best to give back to the ecosystems and the communities that have adopted me and that have made me feel as if I'm home when I'm in their ecosystems. And one of those ecosystems is the Cincinnati ecosystem. Shout out to Lightship Capital and Black Tech Week and all the folks that are doing amazing things in Cincinnati. That community has made me feel like that is a home to me. When I'm there, I can spend a week there and I can have meeting after meeting and be in these different accelerators and programs and talk with people and give my time, right? That's the most important thing for me, is how can I give my time back to these ecosystems? And I do add an emphasis on the minority innovation ecosystem. I think it's so important that these resources are given back to Black and Brown founders so that they can so we can help increase these numbers, right? The statistics around, what Black women, Black men, raise when it comes to venture capital money is abysmal. And it hasn't moved over the last 10 years, right? It's moved incrementally. And so for me, how can I be a part of the solution? And I think, getting in with those idea stage founders, with those early stage founders, giving them as much free education as possible, giving them as much free legal resources, and allowing them to be the most educated founders they can be as they navigate what is a system that is, quite frankly, stacked against them. And so for me, I just want to always be in the mix. I always want to be in these different places. I could do everything virtually like we're doing right now, and I could sit in Pittsburgh, but I really love to get down in the trenches with people and get into the boat with them. I think it's just so important for them to see me there. And people that have invested back in me, my clients, right? Like when somebody hires me, they're investing in me just as much as, I'm going to invest in them. It's a two-way street. And so the least I can do is hop on a plane or get in my car and go sit down with them and walk through, what their office is, or have lunch with them or meet their family. I think that's just so important for me to do. So my airline miles are high. My Bonvoy points are healthy.
Yes.
So, I can't complain. It's been a heck of a ride. And I mean, it's the best part about my job is the people. I say it all the time. My clients, the community partners, folks like you that I get to speak on conferences with, like the people is the best part of this job. Because let's be honest, sitting and writing contracts is not fun. It's just not. So I feel super fortunate to be able to just have the relationships that I have throughout the country, throughout the world, and be able to get to visit so many cool places and learn about those ecosystems and contribute to those ecosystems.
I feel like this is the time where I should tell you to put your Calendly link in the chat box, because you just everyone is going to want to ask get those free advice right now. And
Hey.
I love that so much. James, so going into Plain Sight 2024, What are you most excited about?
I think growth really. You know, we decided to go back to events recently, really, and so 2022 was like our first year with the product in the market,
Cool.
and this year was that year where we proved our concept. Um, and next year, I'm just excited about exponential growth and being able to unlock that, being able to grow the team, and really be able to, I think, scale at a rate that makes sense for us at this stage. And that is painful a lot of times. Like growing pains are real. Being being stressed over not being able to like seize opportunities is real. Like I hate turning down opportunities because of capacity. And so we're in a fundraise right now, which will hopefully help with that. So I'm excited about that for sure. But because the more bodies that we can get working on this thing, that's what's going to truly determine how successful we can become. And I'm also just excited to see how we can impact the lives of event creators and community builders, because we are providing real resources to them, whether that's in-kind sponsorship or cash or connections. And we need event creators and we need community builders to continue to do what we do as an ecosystem, right? Like we all talked about building relationships and we all talked about the importance of community and those sorts of things and how lonely it can be as a founder on that founder journey. Well, events are the place that we typically go, whether they're big or small, to be able to find that community and be able to see ourselves in other founders and other people in the ecosystem. So I'm excited for the impact and I'm excited for the growth for sure.
Cool. I love that. What about you, Derrick? What are your insights for 2024? What are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, for me, consistency is everything, right? So I always think this is a marathon, not a sprint. And so year after year, and I'm gonna head into it probably next week when I take a few days off. I sit down and I look at everything I did the previous year, and I really think about what filled me with joy first, what yielded great ROI second, and then what felt like more of a drain. And then as I look at 2024 and I look at my scheduling, right, I want to stay consistent with the things that filled with me with joy. I want to stay consistent with the things that yielded a great ROI. And then the things that drain me, I want to remove those things and I want to look to new things that I haven't tried yet. But I always want to be consistent with the things that are working for me and working for those around me. And I think, as companies, that's a similar process that you should be going through at the end of the year, right? What in 2023, made this company prosperous? What in 2023 made us feel like we had a better culture? What in 2023 made us have yielded a great ROI? And then what felt like a drain or a waste of time? And really start to map out your 2024 by trying to be consistent in the things that worked, and then think about how to replace and or further maybe optimize or maximize the things that didn't work if you feel like they should be working. Because at the end of the day, like, if you're going to run your company, even if your plan is to exit or get out of your company very soon or something along those lines, you're still in it for a decent amount of time. So the only way to get to where you're going, I think, is consistency and being habitual in the way that you approach things.
Cool. I love that.
You're not getting off the hook, Carrie. What are you excited about?
I was actually hoping. I was like, what are my insights? So Innovate is actually pretty new, to be honest. So we started, I say we, but you guys, it's me. It's me. Sometimes I have a golden doodle at my feet, but really it's just me.
That's a royal we.
No, it's a royal we. So I really started this back in September, a full 3 months ago. So I've got a lot of growth ahead of me. I'm really excited to really step into a space where I feel very comfortable in terms of, you know, growing relationships, and I really love, I genuinely love sales. I genuinely love understanding people's stories and connecting with founders and helping them really figure out what's the best way that they're going to communicate their story to be able to help hit the next milestone. So I'm really excited about that. I also think that there's such a need, and I think Derrick, you hit on it, but it's like there aren't enough women. I know you were speaking in terms of, you know, your color, but like in terms of just female founders, there's so few. And so I just get really excited when I can connect with them. And the fact that I am one now is just a really incredible experience, because it's really just a decision that you make, and then you sit up and you say, this is what I'm doing, this is who I am. And it's just, I don't know, I think that that's really incredible. So I think like the growth, I also think, you know, I've already 3 months in, I've already established things that I don't like doing. So when you were talking about outsourcing, or, you know, coming up with other ideas of ways to kind of do less of that, I'm already there. I'm 3 months in and I'm already like, oh, well, I could go without that. But yeah, but I think like building connection, building community is so important, especially after COVID. And, you know, from my background, DoorDash is still very remote. So I came out of like 5 years of basically working by myself, and I'm a very big extrovert. So this will like give me energy for the next, like even this interaction for the next like 3 days, I'll be on like a high just from like the, you know, the people here. But yeah, so that's it. So that's yeah. That's growth, excitement, getting rid of things I don't want to do.
Nice.
Being a female founder. I know we have 2 minutes left. Are there any questions? No. Manny, is there anything else you want us to cover?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you all. I know we're down last minute. If there's anything you want to share, feel free. But no, thank you so much. I appreciate this. It was a really, really good panel.
Thanks, Manny, for having us.
Yeah,
and
this is incredible.
Yeah,
yeah, and
it's
putting
been
this
great.
on